Today we're talking about Hell Let Loose, and I want to give you some of my ideas that I think would be fantastic to push this game forward. I'm a former COD player coming to Hell Let Loose, which means I have a lot more to learn. But as I learn, I see little things that I think would be super beneficial to the game, while also respecting the fact that this is not Call of Duty. This is a World War II simulation game, but I still think there are some things that can be thrown into this that are true to what happened in World War II, maybe exaggerated, right? Maybe some things that weren't widely as used or widely as known about, but would still be beneficial to the game, including maps and real locations as well. Now, I want to hear from y'all, and I definitely want to hear from the veteran players of Hell Let Loose. What do you think could be implemented into this game that would push it to the next level to help build upon the community that's already here? Now, again, they talked about a lot of bug fixes and all that kind of stuff. I'm not really going to focus on that, although that's super important. I'm going to focus on some of the things I'd like to see in the game. First thing is a real progression system, right? A real visual and audible indicator that you're doing things correctly, whether that's medals or, extra XP for doing certain things, right? If you build 50 barriers, or if you, throw down a certain amount of supplies, if you build a certain amount of garrisons or outposts, if you get 150 headshots, or just some kind of indicator, right? I mean, this is still a video game and it's designed to be fun. And so if they're talking about pushing it to the next level, I think that would be a really cool thing to implement in the game, man. Just, give medics a reason to want to revive you and heal you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see people use the medic role barely at all. And why would they? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you get anything extra. Maybe a 10 XP or something for reviving a down soldier, and obviously losing that soldier is kind of vital, but you don't give them anything in return. And so I think that if they were to make a more robust and exciting progression system, would it take away from some of the realism? Yes, but I think that it would really help to keep people involved and get people into the game and get them excited, really excited about the game. Now, don't get me wrong, this game is really good. And so I'm just thinking about things for the future to build upon what they already have, which, like I said, is pretty freaking amazing. Now, they talked about some of the maps that they want to implement, from the Battle of Mortain to the Castle Itter and even to North Africa. They also talked about the Finnish and Soviet Winter War, which all are fantastic ideas, right? But what about the Pacific War? What about Okinawa? What about Iwo Jima, right? Can you imagine you're playing as the Americans and you get to push the flag up with 5 other soldiers on the top of Mount Suribachi? I think that would be the coolest experience. But getting to Mount Suribachi, you're dealing with a new faction that you could add into the game, which would be the Japanese, of course. New weapons, Arasakas, Nambus, right? So you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, for lack of better terms. And those Japanese soldiers are dug in. And so you're trying to coordinate with your team. It would be an extreme coordination event to try to get into these bunkers. Trying to coordinate with tanks. They had the Sherman M4A3 that had a flamethrower. So, I just think that would be a crazy awesome experience. Okinawa, Saipan, Guadalcanal, all of these locations in the Pacific, you could make one hell of an experience with a lot of these places, because that's where, all the fighting was fierce, but the Pacific War stuff was nasty, man. And so I believe that if you added that into this game, dude, already it's going to be 110% better, as long as they make it to where the Japanese are useful, unlike the British, which they did talk about fixing, by the way. So another idea that I had for a location while shooting this video is Ramree Island. If you're not familiar with Ramree Island, you should definitely look it up. It is fascinating, but essentially you have the Indian Corps, which are under British control, and then you have the British as well. And so you have them facing the Japanese. And so if you take all these points and you coordinate well enough, you push them off the island and the only way they have to go is literally through the mangrove swamps, where they were then, like 500 of them were actually killed by crocodiles. So if you want a map that would be insanely fun to play and terrifying at the same time, Ramree Island would be a fantastic location. Now, coming to gameplay again, there's also the idea that I had, and so this may be something where veteran players can kind of jump in here, but you got tanks, but you really don't have any kind of like aircraft besides recons and calling in artillery strikes and things like that. Would it be a bad thing to have maybe one or two Air Force or Luftwaffe teams kind of, working together with that as well? That would be cool. What about submarines, U-boats? If you did the Battle of Britain, the Battle of the Atlantic, right? You have a series of U-boats and you have a series of battleships. If this game is willing to explore all of those things and put it together in kind of a fun, presentable package, I think that would be really cool. It doesn't always have to be infantry in order to have fun. You could coordinate with other U-boats to be able to take out all the remaining battleships, or even if the battleships are defending cargo ships coming in, and then the U-boats would have to try to coordinate to get around the battleships to be able to sink the target that they're looking for. You would have maybe some battleships that are running a blockade and not allowing Germans to get out. Who knows, man? There's a bunch of different things that you could look at, but that stuff implemented into the game would be cool as well. Now, here's one that may be slightly controversial, but I think this game is absolutely set up for it. Battle Royale. Okay, so I can hear some people already saying, dude, no. But hear me out. You have teams of 4 or 6 that fly in together, and the last team wins. So the best team that coordinates with each other actually wins the game, right? However, whatever kind of map you would set that on, but it wouldn't be an individual battle royale. It would only be a team experience, because this is a team-based game. So if you were to do that, to me, the last team standing, I don't know, man. I just think it would be a fantastic idea for this game and to push this game forward. I think if you were to do that, having a revive system, obviously you would want to have that in place. And you would have to figure out the logistics. Like if you have 3 or 4 of your teammates that die early on and there's only 2 left, those guys really have to then work extra hard to try to stay alive. If you're not critically wounded, having the ability to maybe pull your pistol out. How many cool experiences could you have with that, where you think you've killed the last player? Maybe it's a 1v1 thing. I don't know, just hypothetical. And you have the ability, if you're not critically wounded, to be able to pull out your pistol, and it's got like a swaying thing to it, and you have to try to hit that shot. I don't know, man. There's a whole lot of possibilities to that, but I think some kind of BR element to this, if it's team oriented, could definitely work. And the last thing we'll talk about is some of the Wunderwaffen, right? Some of the wonder weapons that Germany used, right? And so they may not be as prevalent. Some of them failed, right? Just drastically, but you have things like the Doodlebug, right? And so this is a remote controlled vehicle that's able to carry like 100 pounds of explosives, right? And, they had like 2,000 feet of wire to them, okay? And later they were actually wireless, which is pretty crazy to think about in, in 1944. But, if you have a kill streak, or, an XP streak, or you're just doing things really well and you have the ability to call these things in. First of all, it's not like an instant thing. You're going to have to wait to get these things airdropped in to a safe location, and make it fit inside the game. And then you have the ability, if you get close enough to the point you're trying to take, where you could take out this Doodlebug. But The other team also can cut the cord, which was a big issue with these doodle bugs when they had wires. If you don't have a coordinated attack with this kill streak, if you will, then it's going to be absolutely useless. But it gives you the opportunity to get some really cool kills. I would say something like a V2 rocket, if you're doing the Battle of Britain or, where these things were actually used. Dude, there's so many things. I could make probably 4 parts to this video of cool things they could throw into this game. Now, I definitely want to hear from the veterans here. What do you think are some of the most important elements to throw into the game to move it to the next level? Or do you think it's fine the way it is and should just have some new maps and that's pretty much it thrown in? I'd love to hear from you guys. If you like this video, maybe you'll like one of these other ones that I've done on Hell Let Loose. And if you like my content, consider subscribing and hit your notifications. Big thanks to you guys. See you in the next one. And as always, hold 'em down.